Welcome to Don't Chuck It Up, the podcast where we help students and families navigate the wild journey of the college search and applying to colleges without breaking a sweat. I'm your host, Chuck, and today we are talking about common questions and resources. The goal of this episode is really to help parents and students answer some of those very common questions that I get and provide you with a lot of resources to help you navigate this college search and application process. I really wish that I could work individually one-on-one with every student and parent across the country as an independent educational consultant, but that's just not realistic. So I decided to make a short podcast and YouTube. Okay, let's be real. This one's going to be a little bit longer, chock full of resources and answering some of the common questions that I get in the goal of reducing your anxiety, lessening your stress, and giving you a bit of a roadmap for this scenario of helping your student navigate the college search and application process. If you are listening to the podcast version of this episode, feel free, continue on listening, but you may want to jump over to my YouTube channel, Don't Chuck It Up, because I'm going to be sharing screenshots of some of the resources and websites that I'm providing for you today. So I hope this is helpful in answering some of your questions and concerns. Here are the 4 areas that I plan to talk about during this episode. Number 1 is expectations, and really expectations that I hear from parents and concerns that I hear from parents. Number 2, some financial aid. I'm going to cover some basic information and give you some resources where you can learn more information about the financial aid process. Number 3, discovering a major. One of the most common questions I get is, my student has no idea what they want to major in. How can I help? I have a few options for you to help you navigate that. And lastly, number 4, finding a college. Where do I start in helping my students find a college that could potentially work? And then I've got some bonus information towards the end. So let's first dive in with general expectations. The biggest thing that I want parents and students to remember is that the college search and application process is a marathon, not a sprint. The most common question that parents and students ask me are we too late in the process? I'm recording this right now in April of 2025. And at this time of the year, this is when students have often received their ACT or SAT scores. They know what their GPA is going to look like for the end of junior year, and the buzz of college is definitely in the air. So everyone's talking about this, and inevitably a parent will reach out to me and say, I think we're behind because so-and-so, my neighbor's daughter, son, whatever it may be, or my nephew or my niece, already is starting to visit colleges and already starting to figure out applications and essays, and we're freaking out. We don't know what to do. Are we too late in the process? Again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. If you think about one of those fun runs that you have in your community, those 5K races that are raising money for a local charity or just a great community event, they all start at the same time, but you often will know that there's definitely different pacers during those races. When they say 3, 2, 1, start, there's some people that sprint out of the gate and get that 5K done really quickly. And there are others that tend to just go at the normal pace. If I'm running a race, it's definitely going to be a little bit on the slower side. But keep in mind, the finish line is the same for all of those runners, no matter how fast or slow they may travel on that race. For all students, your finish line is May 1st of your senior year. That is the date that you are going to want to be able to say, I've selected my college and I know that it's a good fit for me financially, socially, and academically. So keep in mind, marathon, not a sprint. The other biggest thing is that parents will say, I don't know what to do because my student hasn't started thinking about college or asking about college. Your students are really busy. Teenagers today have a lot going on, whether that's academic classes, homework, extracurriculars such as music performances, theater rehearsals, sports. Maybe they're involved in NHS or FBLA or HOSA or a wide variety of other things. A lot of students also have a part-time job, or they're volunteering, or very engaged in Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, religious life. The list goes on and on. Students are busier now than ever. And to be honest, college is kind of the last thing that they can fit on their plate. Have you ever gone through a buffet line and you get down to that dessert section and you're just going, where am I going to fit that? That's kind of how students feel when they're thinking about college. So make sure that you schedule a time to talk about college. Sundays at dinner time are often preferred because this is the time when students and families are kind of resetting for the week. So plan a time during your week that everyone can sit and talk about college. This is when parents get to bring up, okay, what are you working on next? And students can talk about what they have worked on or what they will be working on for college. Keep it to no more than 45 minutes. Remember, teenager attention spans don't always last long. And this means that for the rest of the time during the week, don't pester your student about college. Maybe when you get closer to the application deadlines, you could have 2 times a week, but really try and limit your college talk, and this will keep students less stressed and less freaked out. Many times when I'm working with students, they're often saying that their parents just keep pestering them about the college process. Again, go back to my first point. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So make sure that you make time to talk about college. Number 3 for expectations is check in with your high school counselor. They are a critical person to help you on this process. The high school counselor is going to be in charge of sending out your transcript to your colleges and potentially writing a letter of recommendation, known as a counselor recommendation, to many of your schools, or to many of your colleges, I should say. Oftentimes, high school counselors also give presentations at the school where they walk you through the timeline and expectations that they have for their students. So make sure that if your high school is offering a session about how to prepare for college, that you go. I know families are busy, students are busy. So if you're unable to make that presentation, find out from your high school counselor if they recorded it or if there are handouts available either in person or online that you can get. Students should be checking in with their high school counselor to make sure that they are meeting the high school expected deadlines for the college search and application process. Speaking of deadlines, I also encourage that you make a timeline for yourself. There are things that need to be done. For example, you need to plan college visits. So you are going to need to look in your calendar and find times that are going to be available for you as the parent and students to be able to go and visit colleges. Now, footnote on this, you don't need to visit a college before you apply. I'm going to talk about later how you can research colleges without actually going to the college campus, and I'll give you some resources for that as well. Other things is you're going to need to have a timeline as to completing the application documents, getting testing completed, writing the essays, requesting letters of recommendation, and on and on. Keep in mind, for most colleges, the application season starts on August 1, right before the senior year. That is the date that almost every college and university in the country launches their next application for the next year. You don't have to submit on August 2nd. There are a couple colleges that have some early deadlines in October. I'm looking at you, Southern colleges, with your October 1 and October 15th deadlines. Most colleges in the country, the deadline is November 1st, November 15th, or even later. So you're going to want to plan out to make sure that applications and essays are ready to rock and roll by the fall. If you're worried about fall sports, this means that students are going to need to work on their applications over the summer. I know, students don't want to be thinking about anything about school over the summer, but that's summer between junior and senior year. It's going to be critical to get some of this work done so that you aren't stressed out and sprinting at the very end of the race to write all of your essays on some Saturday morning right before the application is due. And the other thing for expectations, I really want to encourage for both parents and students for the future is have a realistic college application list. This year, I noticed on Instagram and on TikTok, many students were applying to some very hard to reach colleges and some that were really not usually hard to reach, but this year they were due to the increase in application volume. Colleges that were easily accepting a large amount of students just a matter of a few years ago are now becoming more and more selective. Why? Because they're becoming more visible and more popular thanks to Instagram and TikTok. I also saw a lot of students who were getting admitted to certain colleges, and then the parents were unable to afford that. I'll share more information about that when I talk about financial aid. But as you are applying to colleges, really consider some places that are not only just reaches, but also some likelies. Your high school counselor can help you with this and planning to make sure that your list is balanced and that you are going to get some great news saying that your student is admitted to some amazing places. One resource I would like to share with you is one of the authors that has inspired me on this work. Frank Bruni is a New York Times bestseller and a writer for many different newspapers. And several years ago, he wrote a book called Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be, an antidote to the college admissions mania. This is a resource that I have, and it is a very worn copy that I have been reading over and over and over again. But this really breaks down for students and parents what the admissions process is like and to think about it in a much more holistic way and how college will impact you not only right after high school, but for years to come. So if you are looking for a resource to help you de-stress and think about the admissions process from a different point of view, check out Frank Bruni's book, Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be. Remember, my final expectation is going to be this. The reason why students are really stressed out about this process is that they have been in a state of dependence for the vast majority of their life. They've been depending on you, parents, to help them get to school, get from school, go to haircuts, medical appointments, sporting practices, theater rehearsals, all of those types of things. For most students, parents have been in control for the vast majority of their young lives. So the college search is really the start of the process for the student to move from a state of dependence on their parents to a state of independence. This is the first time in their life that they get to make a major decision for themselves. They get to pick what their path after high school looks like and what type of college experience they want to have. This is stressing them out a lot. So please remember to take it slow, be gentle, try not to stress out. Because during the junior and senior year, this is also the time that, shall we say, the baby bird is about to leave the nest. So this is a highly emotional time for parents and students. So make sure that you are making a plan for things, taking it easy, and remembering that this is a marathon, not a sprint. I want you to enjoy this process as you explore the world of colleges and universities with your teenagers. The next biggest area that parents often ask me about is financial aid. I get it. Money is a huge issue and people are freaking about how do I pay for colleges? And how do I make the college experience affordable for my student? Lots of things have changed in this area from when parents were in college. For most parents, they remember being able to pay for their own college experience. This is back when costs were a lot better. I mean, let's face it, eggs were a whole lot cheaper back then, for real. But now things have gotten more complicated. And our state governments and our federal government have not supported our colleges and universities as they once did back in the 70s and 80s. Therefore, colleges and universities have had to raise their costs in order to pay for faculty, staff, health insurance, building improvements, and expanding the resources that students need to be successful. Now, many colleges offer mental health resources, wellness centers, and other experiences that help support the student getting through the college adventure. And these things cost money. So, how do we understand the financial aspect of the application process to colleges and universities? The biggest thing is that parents need to make a budget. You need to think about your own financial resources and what are you able to afford. This is different than what you can afford. So I've noticed this past year, many families who are much more affluent are saying, well, we can afford a very large, expensive college, but we don't want to pay that. So first you have to be able to understand as to what does the federal government view as your ability to pay for college. And that can be a little tricky. There is a FAFSA estimator. FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, but the FAFSA estimator is a little bit tricky to understand. I have spent years in admissions and financial aid, and I'm even confused by it. So I'm going to give you a different way to view this. The thing that all colleges have available on their college websites is called a net price calculator. This is a calculator. It looks at your financial information and the academic information of your student and then calculates as to what it would cost for you to attend that college. So collegecost.ed.gov/net-price. It's a big name. If you search US Department of Ed net price calculator, you will get to this website. This is where you're going to be able to enter a college or university that your student is looking at and then fill out their net price calculator. This is going to give you a rough estimation as to what that particular college or university would cost for you as a parent and for the student. Keep in mind that it is just an estimation. Things can be more specific based off of the student's academic profile, if they've increased GPA or test scores when they apply, and really how much the college is actually interested in the student. I've seen some colleges give out some huge scholarships because they're very interested in having that student join them on campus. But the net price calculator is a great way to start to see how much a certain college or university may cost for you as you are going through the college search and application process. Another resource that people have often not known about is the National Association for Student Financial Aid Administrators. Why would you even need to know this? So this is the national group of all the financial aid staff from colleges and universities all across the country. And on this website are loads of resources for students and parents. It's a great way for you to be able to go to tools and resources and then go to, I'm going to just click on that. And then I'm going to find, nope, that is not what I want. Resources for students and parents. So for those on the podcast, I'm trying to navigate the website. It can be a little bit tricky. So resources for students and parents on the NASFA website, NASFAA, is great. It walks you through the basics of financial aid, FAFSA tips and common mistakes to avoid, award notification comparison sheet, how to compare financial aid awards, tips to help students in unique situations and certain populations, FAFSA information for students from families of mixed immigration statuses, and my biggest favorite resource that no one ever knows about is financial aid in your state. So there is federal financial aid, which a lot of people have heard about in the news, but there's also state financial aid. And under your particular state, there is financial aid programs available to you. So if you click on the state financial aid programs, it'll show you a map of the United States. You click on your particular state, and it'll bring you to the state's version of this website. This is a great way to learn about state scholarships and grants that are available to you right in your own backyard. The other resource that most students and families have never heard of is the tuition exchange programs. Tuition exchange are agreements between states to allow students to go to a neighboring or nearby state. So instead of paying out-of-state tuition, though, you get what's called a tuition exchange. You are typically paying 150% of the in-state tuition. This is not a ginormous savings, but for many students and families, and many of the students that I work with, it is a substantial savings. You're not paying the full out-of-state price. You're now paying a reduced tuition compared to the out-of-state price. So the national or state and national regional tuition exchanges are a great resource. There's a Midwestern region, a New England region, a Southern region, and the Western region. Those are the four most common and the ones that cover the largest amounts of states. Other states do have what's called reciprocity or tuition agreements, and those you may have to go to the particular state's website to learn more about those resources. For example, I am in Wisconsin, and we have reciprocity with the state of Minnesota, so students can go who live from Wisconsin can go to college or a university in Minnesota that is public, so the University of Minnesota system or the Minnesota state system, and they get automatic in-state tuition costs if they meet the reciprocity agreements. So these are available among several states, so check out that resource. As I mentioned before, all parents are going to have to fill out the FAFSA during this process. So parents, as you're creating a budget, you're also going to want to remember to complete the FAFSA. Put this on your timeline. The FAFSA opens October 1st of your student's senior year. You really can't do anything about it before then. So you're going to have to put a reminder on your calendar that on October 1st of your student's senior year in high school, you are going to go to fafsa.edu.org, and you're going to have to complete the FAFSA. So the FAFSA is the application that is sent to every college that you are applying to. And this is a way for the colleges to understand your particular financial aid information. So the best website, the one that I said before, you can ignore that one. I would just go to studentaid.gov. So studentaid.gov is the way to get into the federal student aid account. You're going to have to create an account. Parents are going to create an account, and the student is going to have to create an account because there is a student portion of the FAFSA as well. Again, this officially opens for your student on October 1st of the senior year of high school. One last thing to keep in mind is that every college will accept the FAFSA, but there are a certain group of schools that require additional financial aid applications. So if your student is applying to a more selective private or public institution, they may require what's called the CSS profile. The CSS profile is something that parents need to complete that's in addition to the FAFSA. This application is a bit more complicated and requires a bit more time. You can always go to the CSS profile website and click on the participating schools and find if your college, if the college that your student is applying to or the university requires the CSS profile. I always recommend, instead of scrolling through this entire list, you can make it smaller. On the very top, you're going to want to check for if it's available for domestic students, which would be American students. So you would check that as yes. The list gets smaller. And then you would want to see in a particular state. So I'm in Wisconsin. I would scroll down and select Wisconsin, and only 2 colleges in the state of Wisconsin require it. If you're looking on the East Coast, say in New York, there are a lot of colleges in New York that require the CSS profile. So this is another part of the planning phase. Parents, as you're working on your budget and thinking about completing the FAFSA, make sure you check out the CSS profile to see if your student's college or university requires it as part of the financial aid application. So that's what I've got for financial aid. Next, I want to chat a little bit about finding a major. Again, this is another reason why students and parents reach out to me, is that their student is very confused as to what they would like to major in. Parents, I want you to go back to when you were 16 or 17. Did you have a clue as to what you wanted to major in? If you did, are you doing that for your career right now? Take a moment. I'm going to bet that most of you are not in the career that you had originally planned when you were 16. In fact, I'm also going to bet that most of you changed your major at some point in time in the college process. Whether that was during when you were looking in high school or when you were actually in college, you changed your major. In fact, that's super common right now. Over half of college students in the United States will change their major at least once. So the most common major of a student going off to college is really, I don't know. Beyond that, the most popular majors that students pick are things like business, engineering, something connected to health, or law. Now, the challenge with business, and that is the most popular major right now, is that most students who are picking business know nothing about actually majoring in business, and many of them change out of business once they get to college due to the level of math and the other courses that are required for a business major. So, why are so many students picking business? Well, most parents want their kids to be successful and happy, and they tell them that. And that is the right thing you should be telling your student. You want your student to be successful and happy in college. Students understand successful as making a lot of money. Recent college graduates were interviewed, and the vast majority of them thought that their first year's salary after college should be at least six figures. Students have an unrealistic expectation as to what jobs earn and what the actual pay scale is for many particular careers. So parents, you can help them by talking about how much do you earn? How did you much did you earn when you just were getting out of college? What were the different jobs that you went through and how did your pay change? If a student has a particular career in mind, you can also help them by introducing them to any friends that you know as parents who are in that career and help them hear about what was kind of the starting salary. I know salaries have changed and everything has changed over the years, and students need some more resources. So, if your student truly is confused as to what they would like to major in, there is another resource available to you. The College Board, which has a wide variety of resources, especially if you're taking AP classes or the SAT, actually has a section of their website called Explore Careers. So if you go to the College Board website and search for Explore Careers, you will see at the very top of it is a button called Take the Quiz. This is a quiz that students can complete without signing up. You can go through the without signing up part, and they answer a bunch of questions about aspects of their future job that they would like. Do they want to work with people? Do they want to work outside? Do they prefer to work at a desk? Do they want a daytime job or a nighttime job? And then once they get through it, it will give them possible careers that they may want to consider. So that's one resource that can help students and parents. Another one is, again, going back to the Department of Education. And the federal government has actually created an amazing resource called Career One Stop, careeronestop.org. And this is a place where students can complete a wide variety of assessments for free on their websites, and then that will help them understand what potential careers are out there. The website also will help you find colleges and educational training for particular careers. So maybe a student is thinking that they don't want to go to a 4-year college. Maybe they want to do a 2-year college or a certain certificate or training program. Career One Stop has a lot of that information. For those of you who are parents who are thinking about going back and getting additional education or doing a career change, Career One Stop can be a great resource for you. Again, this is provided by the U.S. Department of Labor. I said education earlier. It's the U.S. Department of Labor, and this is an incredible resource that I highly encourage students and parents to check out as you are navigating particular career options. Lastly, I want you to think about this when you're talking to your students about majors. Instead of having them figure out a major, help them think about what are the qualities and characteristics of what they would like to do in the future. For many students, it's figuring out what is their passion. And the hard part is that students often think about majors in regards to the subjects that they have in high school. So students often will rattle off to me English, history, psychology, biology, chemistry, a world language, maybe a finer performing art. They're really stuck in the majors that they have in high school, and they're not thinking beyond that. So parents, does your student have a hobby that they really enjoy? I've had students who were successful creative minds, or maybe they loved repairing things, or maybe they loved engaging with youth and helping out with youth summer camps, or maybe they really did like to care for their grandparents and help out with their grandparents. Help them think about the passions that they have, and then help them think about what potential jobs are connected to that, and then maybe what a potential major is that would go with that. Keep in mind, your teenager is going to change their mind often. That is one of the reasons why parents often will hire me to help them, is that they are frustrated that their student cannot keep a straight path and go in one area. I have worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of students, and I'm just well aware that teenagers are going to change their mind. Most teenagers can't tell you what they want to have for breakfast the next day. How are we expecting them to plan for their entire life when they're really struggling to do everything one day at a time, 1 hour at a time? In fact, students may not even know what they're doing 2 hours from now. So let's break it down and help them think about this long term and be ready for turns and twists along the way. I had one student that started with me who was absolutely set on being a firefighter when they got through high school and college. We went down that path and we looked at colleges that had fire training and all sorts of resources that could help that student get that path. And then we got about halfway through senior year, and that student said, the risks outweigh the rewards for me now, and I want to think of something different. So he's actually heading off to college to do something in kinesiology, exercise science, because he really enjoyed working out and he loved helping other people learn how to work out and improve. And he doesn't know what particular job he wants, but he knows that health, exercise science, kinesiology are things that he would like to study in college. And so we pivoted and went that direction. So that's a little bit about finding major. Let's talk about how do you find these colleges? I will preface this that again, students don't know what they don't know. Most of what students know about college, they are seeing from Netflix, TV shows, movies, where clearly students never actually go to class. They're always just hanging out on a bench on campus or going to a party. And it seems like college is a big social situation, which is why many students come to me and say, I want a college with a great social environment, with amazing football, maybe that has Greek life. It has to be by the beach, but also by the mountains and close to a city. They really want something that possibly does not exist and likely does not exist. Why? Because they don't know colleges. So things that you can help them with is understanding college. Parents, if you went to college, take them on a tour of your own college or go visit a college that is close by to your home. Part of this for the students is going to be a little bit like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. So when Goldilocks entered the house with the three bears, she tried a little bit of everything. Sometimes something was a bit too hard, sometimes things were a bit too soft, and then she found was just right. Or maybe it was a little too hot, a little bit too cold, or then just right. So students need to experience college so that they can see if it's too hard, too soft, or just right. That's why it's great to find colleges near you. If you don't live near colleges, I have some resources for you. But let's first talk about the most important thing that students often forget to think about, which is location, location, location. I've had students think that they want to go, way up north. They love to ski, so they want to go to upstate New York, or they want to go to Montana, and they want to go to a college where there's lots of skiing available. And then they realize that with skiing comes a lot of snow and a lot of cold. Same thing, students who love the beach and they love to be outside, they may pick a college way in the southern part of the country and then realize that it can get pretty hot in those parts of the country for a good chunk of the year. So as you're thinking about and helping your student explore where to go to college, don't forget about location and weather. Help them understand what the seasons are going to be like while they are in college. You can search on Google, what are the average temperatures, what's the average precipitation, help them see that even though they visited that college on a very sunny day, that might be unusual. In that area of the country might actually get a lot of precipitation, or vice versa. If you visited on a rainy day or a snowy day, help them see that that's not always the case and the temperatures do change, especially if a student is thinking of going to a college in a completely different part of the country. So I recommend that if you want to get started, you can also do virtual college tours. Many colleges offer a virtual tour option. So if your student is thinking of going to a college that is farther away, go onto the search engine and find, type the name of the school and put virtual tour. I bet it will pop up. And it's most likely either on the college's website itself or it might be on YouTube. I encourage a lot of my students to use YouTube as a research tool. I know as parents, we never would have thought that this would be the case, but YouTube has become a great way for students to really see the college experience. So you can also use some other resources that are out there. One that I have, if you have an Amazon Prime membership, and I'm not advocating that you get one, but there is a resource called the College Tour. So the College Tour is an Amazon Prime show where they actually go to different colleges and record the campus tour. There are numerous colleges on this website. Some of these have been converted into YouTubes as well, so you can also find them on YouTube. There are now over 12 seasons. I'm trying to see, it's 13 seasons. So season 13 is now rocking and rolling from 2025, but there are lots of schools on here. What I also love about this is that there are lots of colleges on this website, on the College Tour show, that most students have never heard of. So this is a great way to kind of do that Goldilocks test right from home. Does this look too big, too small, too near, too far, too urban, too country? Have the student watch some of these videos and then use it as a discussion point on Sunday when you're talking about college over dinner to see if they might like it. So those are some tips about finding a potential college that fits socially. I will add one slice of it. I've seen so many students ask about the whole football experience. I get it. I went to a Big 12 for my graduate school. I absolutely loved that football environment. But please remind students that football games are only 5 or 6 Saturdays a year. That is a very small portion of their college time, and it is great for those days. But what happens for the other 25 weeks of the college year when football is not going on? Do they still like the college, or do they want something that's different? So help students understand what realistically the entire school year looks like, not just what a football Saturday might look like. Lastly, I want to share that if you're still feeling totally overwhelmed, and I get it, that's normal. There's a lot going on in the college search and application process. I am here to help as a resource for you and your student. So if you have not heard by now, I do have a link tree for Don't Chuck It Up, where you can catch all of my episodes on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. I also have a link to my YouTube channel, my TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Follow me, encourage your students to follow me. That might be a great way for them to learn about what I'm doing. You can also check out my LinkedIn profile to see my professional background. I also have X and Blue Sky that I post on occasionally, my Instagram. And then lastly, if you're wanting to have a personalized conversation with me and learn more about how I can help you navigate the college search and the application process, I do offer an initial consultation meeting. It is 30 minutes, completely free. You can click on the link and it will open up my Calendly, and you will be able to schedule a meeting with me to chat via Zoom. I have worked with students and families around the country. Last year, I had students from Baltimore, Maryland to Honolulu, Hawaii. So I hope I've helped you think about some expectations, a little bit about how financial aid works, finding a major and exploring careers, and then starting that whole college search process. These were some high-level resources to get you started so you can have a great conversation with your student. Remember again, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Take it 1 week at a time or even 1 day at a time. You can do this. You will be able to help your student find a college that fits them. And if you're stressed out and you really could use some extra help, don't hesitate to reach out. You can direct message me on any of my social media platforms. Send me an email at don'tchuckituppodcast@gmail.com or sign up for a 30-minute consultation via my Linktree and my Calendly link. If you're also wanting to know a little bit about more of my professional work, I am an independent educational consultant connected to College Connectors. I've been working with College Connectors now for 10 years. I've enjoyed this work. We are a team of over 10 different independent educational consultants, professionals who really help students navigate the college search and the application process. So if I'm not the right fit for you and you want to talk to a potential other independent educational consultant, I'm happy to connect you with my colleagues at College Connectors. We are physically located all across the country, but all of us also work virtually with our clients. So if you need a resource either from me or my fellow colleagues at College Connectors, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for sticking around. I know this was a much longer episode, but I wanted to share all of these resources with you because right now a lot of parents and students are stressed out as we start the next season of the college search and application process. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you stick around for more information in the future, because that's all the time we have for today. But fear not, we'll be back next week with more tips and tricks to help you conquer the college application process like a boss. Until then, remember, don't chuck it up.